Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
And my name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Don't go anywhere else. They're all fake Unnatural Selections. All these other Unnatural Selection podcasts, they're all bullshit, okay? We're the original and the best. We've been doing this 15 years, okay? I do not accept, it's like three guys getting around a microphone talking about, biological engineering. No, we did the Unnatural Selection thing in 2010. Before podcasting was even a known quantity. I had to explain it was radio on the internet.
It's 16 years now, George.
Fuck!
Probably around about this time we started, I think.
You can measure time by how grey my hair is getting.
It's I think it was in March, May, something like that. You've been at it a long time where you're like, when did we get together? I think it was like, I don't know. I think it was the
year of our Lord 321 BC.
During the first Obama administration. What is time?
Yeah, when did Chernobyl melt down? It was like 20 years after that.
Yeah.
I'm sensing, George, that you've been looking at the SEO of our brand versus the other brands that are out there and getting slightly frustrated with that. Is that the truth?
Well, it's just like granted, we've not had the best search engine optimization for our meaningless
for 16 years
title. So yeah, now it's becoming increasingly salient as I see faux unnatural selections beating us in terms of the amount of attention that they're getting, which is slightly frustrating.
I'm
we should
assuming
can we trademark it? Let's trademark.
Probably. Tom?
I don't know. I'll ask my dad. Yeah,
Daddy knows best.
I mean, we really did shoot ourselves in the foot in the title of our show tells you absolutely nothing about who we are or what we do.
Yeah,
that's the worst choice.
And that is the analysis that I've sort of arrived at perhaps 16 years too late, is that whilst it is a slightly comedic title, it offers no information whatsoever about the content of the show, which, as it turns out, is a problem. So it would explain
huge
why
problem.
We don't have any listeners. Podcast business aside, production meeting over. This is a podcast about the news and politics, particularly with a focus on, number one, American politics, because that seems to be the locus of the largest amount of batshit insanity currently and forever. And then secondarily, Australian politics, because we're Australians and we live in Australia. And so...
And sometimes interesting things happen here.
Sometimes.
And I'd rather not talk about America, but
too bad.
George forces me to do it.
Good news, Adam. We're going to talk about Iran, not America.
Yeah, it's totally different. So, Trump has continued his insane war of choice in Iran, despite saying, we already won the war, we won it in the first hour, and then maybe we could do more, maybe we could do less. But we're going to keep going because the war is clearly not over. And Pete Hegseth's hilarious remark that the Strait of Hormuz is closed except for the bombings.
It's open except for the bombings.
Sorry, it's open except you just don't. Yeah, it's open. Like they haven't shut the gate.
There's no wall. There's no gate.
So it's open
just
except for the bombings.
Mines. Yep.
So it seems as though the war is continuing to escalate with Trump and others, sort of starting to get a bit tetchy with their allies, e.g. us, saying, you should have been helping us out in our insane war of choice that we didn't consult you on.
Yeah, that we didn't tell you we were going to do.
Why aren't you supporting us? And then also in the same breath being like, we don't fucking need you. We could do it all by ourselves. And then also going, but why aren't they supporting us? I don't get it.
It is, the rhetoric has... Yeah, it's interesting this week that it's ramped up as trying to deflect blame onto others. It's interesting that they've started to make that pivot, while at the same time we talked about last week them sending, preparing to send troops over. they've prepared to send more troops over. There are more troops in transit now, ground troops. Apparently, they may or may not seize Karg Island. I don't know. No one knows anything.
They don't
This is
know.
the thing. No, they don't know. I can't. Anyway, let's watch this clip.
It's vibes based. As usual, Trump is talking shit within the confines of Air Force One, which provides just absolutely sparkling audio for us all
Gorgeous
to listen
acoustics.
to. So just, it's just like speaking in a shithead amphitheater.
Countries come in and protect their own territory because it is their territory. It's a place from which they get their energy. And they should come and they should help us protect it. You could make the case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil. We're the #1 producer anywhere in the world times 2. We double, at least now I think it's much higher than that. But we do it. It's almost like we do it for habit. But we also do it for some very good allies we have in the Middle East.
Honestly, amazingly honest there. Like, maybe we shouldn't even be there, you know?
Maybe as I lie on my deathbed and I think about the blood that I've spilled, I think, will I go to heaven? Perhaps I am one of the baddies, but we do it out of habit.
Yeah, out of habit. It's like, this is our favorite sport.
Sometimes Israel calls and you just got to pick up the call. You know what I mean? You know?
But yeah, this idea that that he touches on there, that being like, well, this isn't where the US gets their oil from. Like the Strait of Hormuz, that's not where we get it from. We get our oil, we pinch it from Venezuela. Like, we don't get our oil from this location. So why aren't you guys in there making sure that it's open and defended? Like,
engaging in an illegal, unconstitutional war of choice in the Middle East. Maybe it wasn't the best idea, but who could have seen it coming? Nobody warned us.
It does bring into fresh light the operation in Venezuela. It's almost like they planned this whole thing. But I think that's more circumstantial more than anything. I don't think they did Venezuela in order to do Iran. Like, I feel like they're unrelated. Like, in the sense, like I guess Venezuela emboldened them to do Iran.
Yeah, they got high off the thrill of Venezuela. They're like, yeah, let's do a regime change.
To sit there and go, yeah, well, the US secured its strategic oil supply before moving to an operation that they knew would destabilize the world. I don't give them enough credit to think that far ahead. Like, I think it's just circumstantial.
They're already talking about Cuba. Like, the guy is just horny for war at this point. The president of peace...
Marco Rubio is horny for war, I think, is the...
Okay, sure. But, like, yeah, and Lindsey Graham's got an erection that if it lasts any longer, he needs to consult a doctor. But, like...
He does that JD Vance has just been not very quiet, but more quiet than normal.
Yeah, well, I think he's probably thinking that when he runs in 2028, he's probably going to want to distance himself from a lot of this stuff. I mean, all the America First type, no foreign wars stuff. I mean, you could see the sort of the MAGAverse is kind of like, or the MAGA media, I guess I should say, not the actual supporters, but the MAGA media is like very split up over this issue. You've got the Tucker Carlson,
eating
Megyn
each other
Kelly,
alive. It's great.
all that sort of stuff. Sort of. Going on, and then you've got people on the other side that are sort of saying, yeah, well, maybe like foreign wars are good after all. Like, so I think you're sort of seeing the factions within Trump's administration start to split and go, okay, JD Vance is thinking, okay, I'll occupy the anti-war side, and Marco Rubio is going to go, I'm going to go the traditional neocon, like hawkish conservative kind of side when I run. So, I don't think it bodes well for the world. But it is nice to see the Trump administration ripping itself apart at the seams. If for nothing else, then gives me a bit of joy between the bombings.
There's the Schadenfreude of it, but it is, it's deeply upsetting how, everyone's like, oh, Iraq was the biggest strategic failure, and Afghanistan was the biggest strategic failure.
Let's do it again, baby.
This is, at least there was some semblance of a plan with those other...
And they went to Congress and they tried to rally the UN. There was Colin Powell with his little vial of fucking earwax or whatever he was jiggling around there going, no, the weapons of mass destruction. No, we have to.
Even Vietnam, there was they kind of knew the strategic objective was clear. It was like, let's stop communism, right?
There was this whole idea of the domino theory that if you let these Asian countries fall to communism, then the whole region will fall to communism. And so this is the bulwark, right?
So let's bring the region down first.
Yeah.
So there's a strategic...
As flawed of a logic as that was, can I say, at least there was an internal logic.
Broken, but they've got a thought process. They've got something they're trying to achieve. And like, we talked about it last week, and I said, well, I think it's the nuclear stuff, but we're still not...
As to the reason as to why they're bombing Iran.
I mean, they're saying nuclear on one side of it, then they're saying,
oil,
it's oil, and then they're saying it's like Israel. We're doing it because Israel wanted to do it. Israel's doing it because they're ideologically wanting to do it. It's not even. I don't think there's even a.
Israel wants regime change. I think that's clear. What seems
it's
increasingly. No, but what seems increasingly clear to me, and what Israeli sort of insiders are saying on background, is that the Israeli administration is happy with the outcome of Iran being a failed state. Like, if it's not their explicit goal, they're happy with that outcome. So this whole idea of like, we're going to bomb them into democracy is like clearly facile. It will never happen.
Yeah, they just want to remove them as a threat.
Yeah. And so that's Israel's objective, as I see it, is to remove them as a threat. Now, whether that's just we completely degrade them, sort of military and the IRGC to the point where they're no longer a threat, and or it causes civil war and complete unrest and the country just becomes Libya, just like a completely fractured, failed state. The Israelis kind of go like, either is fine by us. Like, as long as, they're fine with either outcome.
It's a total war thing for them, right?
And be damned how many school children we have to kill to get there.
Tom, you never know when, 176 schoolgirls might be Hamas.
That's true.
There are 1,300 people at least that we know of that have died in Iran. There's about 1,000 people in Lebanon. Bunch of people.
Yeah, Israel's just cute little foray into Lebanon for no fucking reason whatsoever.
There's a UN peacekeeping mission in southern Lebanon, and they're just watching. They can't do anything because the Israelis have rolled an entire division in, a fucking tank division in, to southern Lebanon.
Someone should really do something about that.
They're bombing. The Israelis are bombing. They're bombing Beirut, which is the capital. The Lebanese government doesn't really have that much of a qualm with Israel. They're kind of like, can you stop it, please?
No, but Hezbollah is like a significant power.
But I thought they'd sorted Hezbollah. I thought Hezbollah were all good. They took out all the leaders. Well, apparently,
didn't they take out Hezbollah last time?
This is the thing.
The bombing button is context dependent. It's like it's one of those buttons in a game where it's like depending on what's happening in the game when you hit the button. So if the aim is we want to bomb Hezbollah, the context-dependent button is Hezbollah's a threat and needs to be taken out immediately. And if we want to stop bombing them, we hit the same button and it says, we sorted Hezbollah, don't worry about it. Like, it's just completely...
You can't bomb your way through asymmetric warfare. And this is the thing that Iran's now hinted at. They've recently released a statement today, or yesterday it might have been, where they say, well, we're actually going to start going after you on your own ground, which is basically code for... we're going to start doing terrorist attacks. Okay. And they will have the people that they can leverage to do that.
Oh, they've been doing it for a long time, yeah.
Sort of a non-violent one, so to speak, here in Australia. But
where Iranian cutouts, like through, it was
several layers of observation.
Alleged, that the Iranians were behind some of the attacks on.
If they want to get to you, they will get to you. It might take a year, it might take 6 months,
but they do it through cutouts. So there's plausible deniability. They do it through mobsters. They do it through this is a common tactic of states who sponsor terror. Is that we have plausible deniability because we're like 2-3 steps removed from the actual outcome, right?
Yeah. So just like the war in Iraq. This escalating conflict, which there is no, we talked about before the show, there's no off-ramp. Like, they're just going to keep escalating. And all that's going to do is actually make Western countries unsafer in the long run. And it's also, as we're going to talk about in a minute, it's destroying the world economy.
Yeah, it's not
and
helping.
I can't, it's just making me angry. I can't deal.
This should help simmer you down. Donald Trump talking.
Mr. President, do you intend to lift sanctions on Iranian oil, and do you intend to potentially put U.S. troops or more troops in the region?
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you, but I'm not putting troops. And we will do whatever is necessary to keep the price as low. I actually thought when I did this, look, the Dow just hit 50,000 a couple of weeks ago. They said that couldn't happen for 4 years. It wouldn't happen in my term. It's such an outrageous thing because I said it would happen. I didn't know it was going to happen that fast, but just hit 50,000. And we did that in 1 year, not 4. S&P had just hit 7,000. They said that was even more impossible than the Dow hitting 50. And we did that in 1 year. So it's all done. Everything was going great. The economy was great. Oil prices were very low. Gasoline was dropping to, we had $1.99, $1.85. We had great everything. And I saw what was happening in Iran, and I said, I hate to make this excursion, but we're going to have to do it. And I actually thought the numbers would be worse. I thought that it would go up more than it did.
What are you talking about?
It has nothing
What are you
to do
talking-
with anything. I love it. That was like, yeah, are you going to put more troops in Iran? Well, you see, earlier this year, the Dow hit pedophilia's okay numbers, and like, that meant that everything was fine. Like, if pedophilia's okay, so is bombing another country, right?
For reference, the Dow's at 45,600.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to
it's
say,
Time of recording.
I thought it very quickly dropped below that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking
I
hell.
can't
Like,
believe. I mean, that's why obviously Pam Bondi said it because he's been saying it.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
Yeah, like it's the company line. But
The economy, no, don't you worry about petrol prices. Don't believe what you're paying at the Bowser. Don't believe your lying eyes. Believe me, economy good. Petrol prices were low. You must have missed it. Dow 50,000, economy good, double plus good.
yeah, your bank account is fake news. Seems to be
Yes.
now the
Yep.
tactic that they're employing.
Yeah. And
Um,
as Adam mentioned,
yeah.
the Strait of Hormuz is where, the majority of the oil the entirety of the oil that flows out of the Gulf needs to flow through.
20% of the world's supply.
Yeah.
That's a
Flows
lot.
through the Strait of Hormuz. And it is, so essentially you've got Iran on the north side, you've got Oman on the south side, and there's a channel which is about 30 kilometers wide at its narrowest point where all of that shipping needs to go through. Now, given that, this is just a simple fact of geography, right? Iran knows this. Iran knows the power that it has over the global economy and how much, the pain that it's causing, probably more the European states than it is the Americas, right? Because of, their positioning and where the oil flows from and to. But this has very much been, clearly, this has been an articulated strategy within the Iranian regime for decades. If and when the Americans come for us, this is how we maximize the pain for everyone.
They've been wargaming it for decades, yeah.
And the fact that Trump has just stumbled balls first into this with seemingly no rational, like, you have guys over at the Pentagon that have been wargaming this out and planning this for years and years, right? That's their whole job. But when you've got an administration that says, like, we know the risks, but, like, fuck it, yeehaw. Like, it doesn't matter. The best war gamers in the Pentagon with the most powerful military in the world cannot win an asymmetric war, because the point isn't to win a 1v1 against the Iranian military, right? The Americans clearly have the superior military force. If it was meet me on the battlefield, pistols at dawn, yeah, the Americans would win. But it's not that. What we're talking about is a conflict that is deeply embedded in the geography of the region. That gives Iran enormous leverage and power to hurt the people around it and make the costs salient to America and its allies in the form of higher oil prices. But it's also just, for them, it's an existential conflict. They don't need to win. They just need to ensure that Americans and America's allies lose. You don't even need to bomb that many ships that go through the Strait of Hormuz in order to make it uninsurable for ships to go through. If there's just a scintilla of risk that your $1 billion ship could be taken out by a $50,000 or $20,000 Shahed drone, the shipping companies will not risk billions of dollars worth of assets on the off chance that, like, maybe Donald Trump's right and we've got this under control. So that risk can't be mitigated by throwing a couple of destroyers through the channel and the Americans will sort it out. Like, it creates instability around the current flows of capital around the world, and there's not really much that the United States can do about that, right? Like they don't need to lose. The Iranians don't need to win. They just need to make sure that the Americans lose. And so that's the same thing that you had in Vietnam, or even ironically, America, when it was first established. It's the exact same tactic. It's guerrilla warfare, asymmetric warfare. I don't need to win. I just need to make winning too painful and too expensive for you to ever possibly do it in order to win.
Yeah.
Right?
So what we're talking about when we're talking about asymmetric warfare, specifically with the Strait. So the Iranian navies, all their major ships have been destroyed. However, the Iranians, again, they've been planning for this. They have a whole suite of smaller, like speedboats that can launch drones, that can lay mines, that can be unmanned, like
little
boats that will just
self-detonating
boats that will just drive in and didn't they call
Oh,
US?
And when we say speedboats,
submarines.
we're literally talking like,
Just
you know,
speedboats.
Miami fucking
Yeah.
speedboats. Like
Yeah.
we're not talking about any
like
special technology.
Commercial speedboats.
Yeah, commercial speedboats. And
Yeah.
the thing is, if you got a couple of guys with, a 50 cal strapped to a little boat, you can swarm these slow moving, defenseless, very expensive tankers and these shipping vessels. You can swarm them with a couple of dozen boats like that, and
Yeah.
it completely chokes off the strait. Or you drop some mines, or you drop some, like, it doesn't require them having a navy in order to
No.
be able to harass shipping, because it's
So-
such a tight channel.
Yeah.
There's only like 3 kilometers within this 30-kilometer part
There's two stretches of 3 kilometer
of
sea
3
lanes
kilometers that you can
on
go
the
through.
on the Oman side. There's also a route which the Iranians have started letting in their friends through, which is
through
at the
to
moment-
Pakistan and China and a
India.
couple of other countries
Yeah.
in India. Yeah.
But they've deliberately rerouted those ones closer to their coast through a separate channel. So there's a bit of a
My
power
point
play
is,
there.
you could have a guy with a speedboat patrolling 3 kilometers. Do you understand what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
the-
it's a very narrow area to
You know?
manage. The other thing, like to keep in mind as well, talk about numbers here. So they've got like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these boats. They've got up to 5,000 sea mines. Their drone manufacturing is substantial. They've also put a lot of these in hardened underground bunkers or like caves.
which live
or
in
like natural
mountainsides. They
caves
just
off the coast, right?
pop
that are
out,
just-
shoot a couple of missiles, pop back in. You never know where the fuck they came from. Like it's like the Taliban on fucking steroids.
Yeah.
This is why no one in their right mind in the fucking Pentagon would have advised doing this, is because this is the absolutely predictable natural consequence of what would happen if you did this to Iran. Is right. The geography does not favor you. Right. You can be Hannibal, coming over the mountains with your fucking elephants, but like that is not the terrain for elephants. So like you will not win that engagement, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking King Leonidas and the 300.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example.
The
The
choice
hot
of where to
gates.
fight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this is something that will persist, and they will, the rest of the country could, be bombed to smithereens, but doesn't, like, they can keep doing this as long as, the regime's got control. Now, can they have large capital ships escorting each individual tanker through? I guess they could, but like the numbers we're talking about here, so like the number of boats that go through that strait, it becomes prohibitive because you would need like a separate, and also very fucking expensive. Like some of the weaponry that you need to take out some of these small cheap things that are being shot at these boats or run into these boats. Like you're destroying a $10,000 boat with a a however many $1 million missile, right?
That's the asymmetric side of it. Is
Yeah.
like the cost of them launching an attack is negligible. The cost of you successfully defending against an attack is substantial. So it doesn't matter. Like they can do swarms of drones if they need to in order to get through and attack these ships. So
Now they've and America's talking about the fact, we've taken out all their drone production facilities and we've taken out their manufacturing. Well, that's fine, but they still have a stockpile, and that stockpile's underground, and unless you find it and capture it, and this is where you start. This is where the escalation paradox, or not paradox, the escalation trap comes in.
Mm.
Well, okay, we've got to get rid of that stockpile. So maybe we have to put boots on the ground to physically search all these caves around the coast.
We just got to deal
yeah.
with the southern coast of Iran. We'll get a bunch of troops on there. We'll just take those installations and then take that out of contention. Oh, wait a minute, those guys are facing serious resistance from further north. Okay, well, we've got to go deal with that in order to protect the ground invasion that we've done on Iran's. Oh, fuck, we've been here for 20 years. Fuck, we did it again. Fuck.
So unless, so the options are we escalate and this continues on and is worse than the 1970s crisis the last time Iran had political instability, or the US pulls out or pauses. They could pull out or pause, but I feel like if they pause, then nothing happens. Like you've still got a strait that's probably closed.
It's still closed.
So it doesn't do anything. So
Iran's not going to go.
They would have to.
All right, pack it up, boys. Let's head home.
Israel and the United States would have to withdraw, and there'd have to be some sort of discussion around it. So I feel like it's not going to get better. Like this, I'm actually really worried about it. I think because it's such a large percentage of the world oil supply, we're going to have to turn to other means. What are those other means? Russia, which means that they're going to get fresh capital, which, Ukraine's actually been doing pretty well in their conflict against Russia because of the whole Starlink thing. But the other thing is it's economically, it's starting to go a bit shit for Russia. But if we open the cash flow again,
which we have more or less already.
Well, for certain areas, but yes, if we have to, like when I say we, I mean like the United States lifts sanctions because India's about to grind to a standstill. And how many people are in India? Like, what's the net? And you just have to look about the utilitarian view. Like, is it worse to like fuck Ukraine or like have a billion people in India like
starving because of lack of fertilizer and
it's
almost like we shouldn't be there at all.
So and then I guess the other option is the US completely withdraws but they're just the political cost of that. Well, maybe there isn't a cost because it's Donald Trump and like
if this war stops today, the economic impacts of this will reverberate for months and maybe years, right? Because as you say, there's no real way that I see this Strait of Hormuz situation getting resolved anytime soon. Australia's reserves, we have got strategic reserves, but because of how much oil we and other countries use in the form of petrol and jet fuel and all this sort of stuff, the largest strategic reserve is measured in days. We're chill till April, but like, what happens after April? Like,
April is like a week and a bit.
It's not that long, right? Like we measure it in days. It's like 44 days worth of strategic reserves or whatever it is that we have.
Well, but yeah, like I think there's a story here about it in our rundown. It's the issue is that so we're still getting supply at the moment from Asia. So the refineries in Asia are still supplying us.
But where the refineries in Asia get their
so at
inputs
some point they're going to run out.
The Gulf.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And China has allegedly, yes, we talked about it last week, they've stopped exports of jet fuel. So, yeah, it's going to get to a tipping point where there's going to be not enough to go around. And
we've got two refineries in Australia, right? One in Geelong, one in Brisbane or something. But that would be enough to supply 20% of Australia's local domestic needs in terms of what we use. And, there's to the extent to which the Albanese government has allowed, as we said, I think we touched on last week, lower quality fuel to be used expressly for the purposes of like keeping domestic supply up. So at the moment, people panic buying fuel is what's driving the price up. The actual amount of fuel that's available
nationally,
that's coming in hasn't changed yet. But the thing is, if this drags on, as sounds like Adam and you, Tom, fully expect it to, then, it's only going to get much, much worse before it gets better. And yes, other places around the globe will, we saw it during COVID, supply chains shift and, people see the incredible amount of demand and thus the prices go up. And so all these other sort of people think, oh, maybe we could start getting into the supply game, or maybe we could reconfigure the way we're supplying or ramp up production. Like you could,
BP are like just clapping their hands together. Going,
yeah.
this is great.
No one's more excited than the fossil fuel companies that all of this is happening because oil's gone to whatever it is, over $100 a barrel, and so everyone's making shitloads more money on the exact same shit they were doing 3 weeks ago. Now, so like supply chains will reconfigure themselves, but that is a process that takes months, years, not weeks, days, right?
Yeah, so and
you
as
can't
an
just
example,
flip it. Like, like you can't just move things around immediately. Like this shit takes a lot of time.
And we don't dig up a lot of oil. We do a lot of natural gas here, but we actually don't have a lot of oil domestically here in Australia. It's one of the few natural resources that we don't actually have, right?
Yeah.
So what do we do when we start, if we really stop getting it from anywhere else internationally, or then are you doing deals with China? We'll trade you some coal. Like it reduces the economy to a bit of a barter system, which doesn't seem like it's going to be overly effective and efficient, right? All of this means higher prices for you, and because petrol is the input cost for everything, not just energy generation, but also transporting stuff across the seas.
Logistics,
Also get the last mile delivery from getting the truck, full of stuff to Woolies, and you driving to Woolies to get it from Woolies to bring it to your house. All of that shit runs on petrol, right? So if the input costs for everyone and everyone's business goes up and the cost of transporting everything goes up, what's that going to mean? It means you're paying more at the pump. It means you're paying more for your fucking saladas. It means you're paying more for your milk, more for your everything.
Yep.
The price of everything goes up because it's all predicated on fossil fuels at some point.
It's a little bit different to I guess in COVID, the building supply crisis, right? Like building costs went up for specific materials, but because fuel energy affects everything, it's much more dispersed, which is why this week the Reserve Bank put up interest rates.
Again, for the second time in a row. This was meant to be the year where they were cutting. So we're now more or less back up to the highs of the rate cycle. We're in another tightening phase again, which is crazy because we didn't even get a real loosening phase. We got a couple of interest rate cuts, and then they just go, don't worry about that. We're going to bring it back up. And it's like, it's got nothing to do with domestic demand. But if the price of everything goes up because the meta input for everything is petrol, right? Then the cost of everything goes up. Well, what is that? That's inflation if the price of everything goes up. So they need to dampen demand in the economy, but like none of this is like to do with anything that's happening domestically. So people go, why do you talk about the US, George? Why do you talk about the US? It's all the other side of the world, mate. Why do you talk about the US? It's like because some dumb prick's decisions over in Washington, D.C. meant that it cost me $100 to fill up my tiny little hybrid tank this week. That's why. It's because I am now, me and others, not just me, obviously, we are now the victims of America's foreign policy. Do you understand? Like it directly affects you and your wallet and how much money you have in your pocket.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's bad. What was your last fuel tank? Did you get an electric one, Tom, or did you get a hybrid? You got a hybrid, didn't you?
I got a hybrid.
What was your last tank filling up?
I filled up
cost.
Yesterday because there was sort of a thing of like, as I mentioned on the show the other week, that I was like, it's quite fuel efficient, particularly if you're using like the more automated driving features. It's more conservative and utilizes the battery probably more than my accelerator does, operating the accelerator. But it was getting quite low. So it's like, I'll fill it up now because it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
And I had a better time than George by the sounds of it. At like $2.40 a liter, it was like $60 to fill the tank.
It's a lot. So it would normally be like $40 for you. You know what I mean?
So,
it's a meaningful difference.
It's a good meaningful difference. But it's certainly boy, am I glad that I've got a hybrid at the moment. Kind of like it's that. That terrifying. That terrifying notion of like, oh fuck, if we still had our older car, this would have been.
So I've got friends,
but of course also we would have had more money in the bank because we wouldn't have had to have bought a new car after our old one got written off. But that's a whole other story. What do you say?
Tom's got car trauma that he's still working through.
Flood
trauma. Meanwhile, as well, we should mention affecting local prices here in Australia is that Catherine in the Northern Territory has been underwater for like a week or two now. There's been a cyclone that's gone through, so all of that will affect supply chain as well. Far North Queensland makes all the bloody bananas and God knows what else, sugarcane and all those other different things. Like, if supply is affected up there, that affects the rest of the country. So,
and it's very hidden. Like a lot of times, we as Australians living in capital cities don't see the harm and the cost until it affects like, oh, fucking mangoes are expensive. Can't get any mangoes for shit. What's going on with mangoes? It's like, oh yeah, there was a giant storm that like wiped out entire like communities and people's livelihoods like 7 months ago, and that's why there's no mangoes. And you're like, and that's the extent to which we think about it. But it's like, no, fossil fuels and then global warming, the impact of fossil fuels is responsible for like wiping out people's entire livelihoods and communities, and we in capital cities just like don't seem to give a shit. It doesn't really make its way to the news. Like the fact that there's a tropical fucking cyclone that's, buffeting the entire north coast of our country, and it's like story number 7 on the ABC homepage is pretty fucking weird, right?
And this is part of, like, we're getting real deep into game theory here, but this is why there is a growing dissonance between the regional areas of Australia and the major urban centres. And it's that same thing is happening in the United States, where, that these communities feel completely left behind and disaffected, and they kind of are to some extent. And it's and I don't know whether this is a good time to segue to South Australia and One Nation, but that's
as good a time as any, I suppose.
I mean, that's the story from the South Australian election, is that the Liberal Party, the traditional conservative, other major party in Australia, has been decimated in the South Australian election. They might have potentially, I've got to look at the current count, but it's about 4 seats out of the
currently,
out of the 48. Was it? Is the total?
There are still 10 seats in doubt, but so we don't know exactly what the allocation is going to be to the Liberal Party versus One Nation, but you can assume that One Nation's going to make off with a couple of seats at least, right?
Well, I mean, they've currently got 0, but but I guess they're counting. Yeah. They're still counting a lot. So
the point is Labor won, right? Like they increased their majority, which is pretty unusual.
Yeah,
right?
They gained a lot of seats.
For a second-term government to not just win again, but to actually increase their majority is a good sign. The ALP's got at least 32 seats out of the 24 that they need to win and hold government in South Australia. But, as you say, Adam, I think that's more of a reflection of the Liberal Party's just completely eviscerated itself. And where are those conservative voters going to go? Well, they're either going to go for the centrist ALP or they're going to go for One Nation. And so what you have now is a situation where, and if this is replicated on a federal level at the next federal election, I think I would be, we talked about the polls that showed One Nation, ahead in people's minds. What we have now is an actual proof point that the Liberal Party as a political entity, like if this replicates on a federal level, they might be done, like for a generation. And the only thing left in their place is the Nationals, One Nation, whatever. And so what you have is a sort of split between the normies, the inner city, sort of blue ribbon liberal
scum-breed wankers,
coastal scum-breed wankers who normally voted the LNP because it helped their, because they were invested in the Dow, right?
Yeah.
And didn't really care that much about the racial animus stuff, but they just like wanted lower property taxes and lower capital gains discounts and all that sort of stuff. I think most of them are probably gravitating either to Labor or to independents. You're seeing a lot of independents in those sort of inner city seats. Like Respender and Monique Ryan.
Yeah, the teals. There's the teal.
There's the sort of teals.
Yeah.
But like, the rest of them, the people who really deeply believe in the racial animus stuff, the jingoism, the hatred of the other, well, they've got nowhere left to go except for One Nation. So, it's good that the center is sort of living and sort of surviving, and the ALP being in the dead center of the map means that they're sort of cleaning up at the moment. But what happens when people are sick of the, as One Nation call it, the uniparty, not getting things done? Where are they going to turn? Well, One Nation seems like an actual feasible political alternative to them then, rather than the Liberal Party, because it's a non-entity anymore. So, and if they hold the balance of power in the Senate or something like that, I think you're going to see a
It will
really
affect policy. Yeah.
and a real effect on actual policy coming through, because the government will not be, even with their supermajority in the lower house, they will not be able to pass shit without sign off from the Senate.
Yeah.
And that's where One Nation's really going to be able to make a difference in a very negative way.
It's interesting. Corey Bernardi is like one of the main One Nation people in South Australia.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. Like all the batshit liberal people that we used to make fun of back in the day just end up going to One Nation. You know, like that's where they go. That's their political home now.
I hadn't thought about Corey Bernardi in a long time, but like when his name popped back up, I was like, oh yeah,
Common sense Corey Bernardi.
Yeah, didn't he say something fucked? And then a journalist brought it up, being like, so you said that like allowing same-sex marriage was just like the next stepping stone to approving bestiality. How do you feel about that now, like 10 years on? He's like, I stand by everything I said. I'm like, yeah, that's the Corey Bernardi I remember. You were handed the softball there to maybe like try and correct the record a little bit, and you were like, hell yeah, brother.
Hey, Corey Bernardi, are you still a fucking idiot? I am, thank you.
Yeah, 100%.
So, here's some footage from Peter Malinowskis's victory speech. I mean, it was, sort of nominally kind of, progressive and inclusive and wanting to sort of heal divisions, but I don't know how much this rhetoric works anymore, man. Like, take a listen.
My respects as Premier of the State to the longest living culture that human history has ever known. More than anything else, tonight I'm overwhelmed with a sense of gratitude, a gratitude to so many people who have provided this government the opportunity to be able to continue to serve, to be able to continue our work of making sure that the momentum in South Australia delivers for the people who deserves it most, and those are the people of South Australia.
We're from South Australia.
Earlier this evening, I received a couple of phone calls, and I do want to take this opportunity to first and foremost pass on my thanks to Ashton Hearn for the gracious way she conceded defeat. I give Ashton great credit for her poise and commitment throughout the course of the campaign, and I wish her every success in whatever undertaking she takes into the future. Similarly, I also received a phone call from Corey Bernardi, and One Nation, Corey Bernardi and One Nation also deserve recognition, not just for the way they went about going out of their way to contact me this evening, but also for getting a very significant result at the ballot box, which does deserve recognition and credit. And I say to both Ashton and Corey Bernardi, along with leaders of other political parties elected to the parliament tonight, that my government stands ready to work with each and every one of you for as long as it is in the interests of South Australians.
That freaks me out. That freaks me out. Like this whole, like, we're going to work with anyone to, like, I get it. This whole unifying rhetoric, I get it. I do get it.
It's just
but also these guys,
talking point. It's not.
These guys are political extremists, and the fact that One Nation is now being spoken of, into, like, we're manufacturing consent, for One Nation being on the same level as the Liberal Party in terms of, like, seriousness, and that is really that is like your by. Not that Peter Malinowskis is doing this in isolation. Like the mainstream media has been absolutely obsequious in terms of how much they're falling over themselves to ask One Nation, so why are you so popular, Pauline? Like all these nonsense softballs that they've been throwing her. But like the fact that now in the mind of the populace, because of statements like that, and I understand he needs to treat it as a serious political entity and he needs to work with whomever he needs to work with in order to get legislation passed. But the fact that you're talking about them on the same level as the Liberal Party, who's been an institution for, since Federation, whatever it is, like that is concerning to me because they're not the same, right?
But let me assure you, it is in no way lost on me as I stand before this rather full room. That without doubt, I am fortunate enough to be able to lead one of the most disciplined, united political parties in the history of our federation.
Yeah, it's kind of I agree, George. It's like while there's a mandate to sort of be like, well, for government to actually work, you have to play ball with your opposition, but you kind of don't have to just say like, hey, yeah, like, I hope we can put our differences aside and work together when like that major party is like Satan.
Filled with Nazis, filled with people who are very sympathetic to Nazi ideals.
There is a long-term
it
political
normalizes
game there.
them.
Well, there is, but there is the other aspect is it does set political groundwork. So they can say now, let's say, because they're not going to. Let's be clear, they're not going to. In the next
until
3
they
months,
have to.
Well, until they have to. But at this stage, it's not clear what the upper house will
in Germany
sit as.
and other European.
Hang on.
Sorry,
let me finish. In 3 months, when they've got to negotiate a piece of legislation or something, they can turn around and go, well, we said we'd work with you. We're open to working with you, and you don't want to work with us, so that's on you. These guys don't want to work, and then they can flip it, right? It gives them a way.
The point is, this is a very normie view of politics. This is how politics has operated for the last 30, 40 years. Just that, boy, do I not agree with you, what you say, but I will defend to death your right to say it as a simple country lawyer. Like, that is how politics has always worked, and people, I guess, nominally want to hear that from their representatives that will work. People are just horny for bipartisanship. But when the other side of the partisanship is fucking crazy people, that dichotomy, that interrelationship no longer works and no longer functions as intended, because what you're doing is you are lending credence to, you are bringing them within the Overton window of acceptable political discourse and making it normal. And One Nation and the things they believe are not normal. These are not normie points of views. These are very radical, far-right, exclusionary, racist ideals that they promote. And to make them normal is to make those ideas normal. And I think it is to the detriment long-term of the Labour Party and any other centrist party to make those ideas normal, because then you're competing on an even basis with them in people's minds.
Yeah, I mean,
and that is dangerous.
The other strategy they could be going with right now is you don't acknowledge them, from day one, you do not really even acknowledge them as an opposition. But I guess but at the end of the day, like, you look at some of the seats, the counts that were flashing up while Peter Malinowskis was speaking. It's not Labor Liberal, it's Labor One Nation. 53%, 46%, or whatever the
and what do you think
were.
that's going to do? It's going to drag Labour to the right so they can be in the centre and mop up all the normie votes.
Well,
in European countries, in Germany and in France and other countries, they have this thing called the cordon sanitaire, right? The sanitary, the bright line between us and the far right. And so whatever coalitions, and in Europe, they have a lot more multi-party coalitions than we do here, right? Than this sort of, binary sort of one party or the other system that's typically been operative here. But basically, all of the sensible parties would say, we don't work with the AfD. We don't work with Marine Le Pen. We don't work, no matter how many, we just don't work with them, because to work with them is to normalize them. And we do not want the politics in our country drifting in that direction. And for 40, 50 years, that worked as an effective political strategy. You're starting to see it break down now in Germany, in France, in Italy. In Italy, the far right is now the government, right? So, we see where this leads. If you work with them and treat them as equals and treat them as though these radical things that they say are part of the normal political discourse, they become incorporated into the political discourse and normalized. And guess what? One day they'll be in power and you're going to have to deal with the consequences of that.
The challenge is, and this is more just for politics,
they need to be marginalized
in the West in general, is that you've got to somehow bring the disaffected voter, you've got to flip them, which means you kind of need to, there's a work to do, and I don't think anyone's really been able to do this successfully yet globally, is how do you how do you flip someone who's now flipped to a far right vote because of all the the broad brushstroke populist things that have been put out there? How do you flip them back to the centre? And how do parties approach disaffected voters and try to win them back again? And I haven't ever. I don't know if you can. I haven't seen it successfully done anywhere.
It's difficult. There's two major strains of thought on this, as far as I can tell. There's the Ezra Klein kind of like abundance movement. That's what his big book last year was all about. Was like making, essentially deregulating so governments can build stuff and deliver things for people again in the form of infrastructure.
So they physically see shit getting done.
So they physically see things
done.
Improving in their lives, right? And that's, I would argue, probably being the central political strategy of China. Dan Wang, in his book Breakneck, essentially says that that's how China has delivered such economic success and relative political stability in the last 30, 40 years is via this method. He describes China as an engineering state. People that are in the government are engineers and former engineers. What they know how to do is build stuff, build infrastructure, because once people see that you're delivering, the size of your city essentially doubles and improves every 7 years, well, they start to go, maybe these guys know what they're on about. I can see the improvement in my life. It used to take me 40 minutes to walk past rice paddies to get to work. And now I take a train and it gets me there in 15 minutes and it's fucking excellent and it's sparkling clean and everything's great, right? So that's the abundance idea, right? Which is a more kind of like neoliberal deregulation, kind of like inherently conservative idea. Really,
well, it's kind of what they've been doing in Victoria is the big build. We're going to build lots of stuff. And now we're going, we can't pay for that.
if it's not accompanied with, it needs to be, and this is the problem with China as well, is they build a lot of stuff, but some of it's white elephants and wastes of money and building cities that, exactly, ghost cities where no people actually live just for the sake of propping up builders and all that sort of stuff. So you need to build stuff that people actually need. But it also doesn't take into account the benefits of the regulatory state, the lawyer state that Dan Wang calls America, is that, environmental conditions, equity, all of these things that slow the process down, quote unquote, are actually kind of beneficial for some communities that can otherwise get swept away in the big march to progress, right? So building stuff faster, yes, is good, but you can't, like a lot of these regulations that have accreted over decades and decades have done so because...
There's a reason why there's minimum light courts and ventilation requirements, insulation
because
requirements,
more ventilation
energy
is
requirements.
Good, because like some guy suffocated and died and they go, well, we probably shouldn't do that anymore. So it's like, so a lot of these regulations exist for good reasons and will... and help to protect people, help to protect communities and the environment. A lot of how America's highway system was initially created was actually like quite racist because it just like, the roads didn't go through nice, expensive communities. Where did they go through? They went through poor communities where they would encounter not that much resistance. What do poor communities have? Well, a lot of people of color. So that's why the Americans go, the Democrats say roads are racist. And it's like, no, but like how you execute infrastructure in a polity has class and racial components to it. And if you prioritize one group over another, you're essentially embedding, inequity into your system. So like you need to think about you can't just like build for the sake of building. Like it needs to be done in a way that's thoughtful, but you can't be stuck in planning for fucking 6 years and nothing gets done, right? So there's obviously a happy medium there that we need to achieve. So that's thought number one, is the abundance movement.
Oh, okay.
Thought number two, this is much quicker.
You thought George was done.
Oh, keep going. I thought we're already at thought number two.
We're nearly done. Thought number two is just like your bog standard argument for progressive populist policies. Delivering healthcare, delivering people, actually make meaningful impact on childcare and, the cost of living and how people live their lives so they can see the benefit directly firsthand of what the government is doing for them. If you deliver populist policies that meaningfully improve people's standards of living, then they're more inclined to vote for you. That's what's caused this disenfranchisement of the voter over the last 20, 30 years, is that they vote for Liberal, they vote for Labor, but either way, their lives seem to just be getting worse and more expensive. They don't actually ever see the benefit, regardless of which party is in power.
It's also hard
and we need to change that.
It's also hard to things move slowly in Western society, and
that's always the counter argument. It's incrementalism.
It's
we're going to get we're going to shift a little $3 million super balances.
Yeah.
We're going to just tinker with that at the edges. And I think people are thinking we need more wholesale change. We need a Bernie Sanders. We need an AOC. We need that type of radical approach.
You can't actually
see
the approach because it happens so slowly. Like we don't see the fact that I haven't been to the doctor in like 2 years.
Or it's hard to get
like
a
12 months or whatever. My point being is like Labor's put in these federally. They've put in these policies around GP visits and stuff and bulk billing. But I haven't been to the doctor really to actually use any of that. So therefore, I haven't seen
healthy.
the benefit.
Luckily, you're healthy. But things like childcare subsidies and things like that has a direct impact on my life and how I live my life. And what I see is they increase the subsidies a little bit, but then very shortly thereafter, the costs from the childcare centres increase correspondingly to soak up that extra subsidy. And so it's like, well, I'm still paying more out of pocket than I was a year ago. How does that help me? So people need to see. And that's why the argument then becomes wholesale change. We can't tinker around the edges, which is what the ALP likes to do. What we need to do is radically overhaul the system. Free education, free childcare, global initiatives like that, which are headline grabbing, not means tested, but they're expensive to do. And we don't have the budget to do that. So, we're much too busy spending $385 billion on submarines that we will absolutely get and definitely need.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think we're on a track. We're on a trajectory that I think leads to one nation being in power in our lifetimes, which is scary. Those are the two solutions: abundance and radical progressivism. And I don't see either of them getting off the ground anytime soon.
It's also with the local, state, and federal system here in Australia. It is hard sometimes as well to
coordinate to the same extent.
Yeah.
If you've got a federal Labor and then a state Liberal, and then they're not inclined to work with each other as much.
Or
as
just I'm not paying for that. That's a state problem. Or I'm not paying for that. That's a council problem.
There was a lot of that during the pandemic. Well, technically that's a state issue, the hospitals. So we're just gonna keep on. Just ScoMo's got a trip to Hawaii coming up, so we're just gonna. That's a you guys problem.
You'll be pleased to know though that One Nation are still picking stellar candidates.
This should really tell you, for those who say, oh, nothing's worked. I get that nothing's worked a lot in the comments. Nothing's worked and Trump's shaking up the system. Nothing's worked and One Nation's taking the lead. And this is what we've got to do to fix up the country. The country's fucking broken and the only people that can fix it are fish and chip owner Pauline Hanson and James on the Sauce Ashby. Those are the two people who are going to bring the country back from the brink. And it's like, well, on what basis are you making that statement? They're like, well, nothing's worked. And it's like, well, on a lot of measures, things have gotten better substantially for people over the last 50 years with regard to economic growth. And I'm not denying that there's, people's individual circumstances and wealth inequality and that, structural inequality and those sorts of things have gotten worse. And people see that in their cost of living and all that sort of stuff. The ability to be socially mobile and move up through the class structure is very limited compared to what it was 50 years ago, right? I'm just very quickly.
We'll go to the story, George.
I know. But it reminds me of a story that my father told me about my grandfather when he first came to Australia. He first came from Greece in the late 50s, or whatever, after the war, late 40s, early 50s, somewhere around there. And, they managed to buy a property in South Yarra. And many years later, my grandfather sold it at an enormous profit, as you can imagine. None of that money made its way to us, but someone made some money anyway. So, but I remember saying wait, when did Papu, my grandfather, when did he buy that property? Dad's like, oh yeah, him and his friend, they moved here, and I think it was within 6 or 8 months they bought that property. I was like, hang on. So you're telling me 2 Greek immigrants who didn't speak a lick of English in whatever it was, the 50s, had enough money to buy a property together in South Yarra and make their start in terms of build out their investment portfolio. And it's the idea of that happening nowadays is just completely unthinkable. That with a year of savings, you could go halvesies on a fucking warehouse in South Yarra. It's laughable. You couldn't do that with 30 years of high income saving to reach that level. So like clearly the ability for people to mobilize and move up the class structure is impeded, and people are feeling that. But the people who are going to improve that situation are not One Nation, as we're about to see, based on the quality of the candidates that they select for the seats that they're putting forward. Thank you, Adam.
Jesus Christ. Just want to get to the story, man. But thank you for that analogy.
They're not gonna improve things, is my point.
I know,
They're not gonna,
But let's find out. Let's find out why. Let's listen to the story first, and then we can extrapolate. Tom,
all right.
this is a good one.
I was gonna say, I sent this to you guys because, like clockwork, we will hear that One Nation has picked someone who is not an ideal candidate for running for any sort of office by the sounds of it, and they clearly have not learnt their lessons from that guy who put photos on Facebook of mowing swastikas into his lawn, and they were like, what? So, one of the South Australian One Nation candidates, now I should have looked up maybe how to say this before the start.
It's spelled AOI.
AOI, so
I want to say
Oi, I'm not sure.
Aussie. Oi.
Yeah, potentially. So Aoi Baxter, who this also references in this article here, is also known by Trent Baxter. So there's been a name shift at some point. I don't know if legally or just...
He did change his name legally, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so did change it legally because, So running in Adelaide for One Nation, it has since been brought to the ABC's attention, and I think based on being brought to the ABC's attention, has then been brought to One Nation's attention, apparently, because after investigating this article, they've stripped him from a whole bunch of like campaign materials and things.
He's not on the website anymore.
Yeah, not on the website, all that. He's wanted in the UK. So, wanted in the UK for not attending a court hearing over charges around sexual touching. So...
unconsensual sexual touching.
Yeah. Unconsensual sexual touching. A UK... a representative of the crime division of the courts in the UK told the ABC, quote, Mr. Baxter in the UK has a warrant for arrest without bail for not attending the court. Should you know of his location, it would assist the court and relevant authorities. They're like, we are looking for this guy.
Well, I hear he's in Adelaide because he's campaigning there.
Yeah. So if he wins on Saturday, you'll find him in the South Australian Parliament. Yeah. Just stellar. And then the ABC reached out to One Nation. I think we just have to have a quote from this.
Oh, this is amazing. I don't know why this was on the record.
Yeah,
why is this on the record? Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so the ABC...
These are the quality of leaders that are going to take us marching into the brilliant fascist future that you guys are advocating for. These are the brains trust behind One Nation.
Yeah, so the ABC reached out to Mr. Baxter for comment. Of course, they didn't get one. They also reached out to One Nation, and I don't think they got any response back from that. But following the ABC reaching out, One Nation published a statement, which read, quote, One Nation has today been made aware by the media of allegations regarding the party's candidate for Adelaide, Aoi Baxter. The statement says, to the best of our understanding, Mr. Baxter may have a warrant in the United Kingdom for failing to appear at a court hearing. This was not disclosed to One Nation by Mr. Baxter. It's unclear if this relates to the same individual. And One Nation will cooperate fully with law enforcement regarding this matter. I just love that, he didn't tell us that he had an outstanding warrant. Yeah, of course he wouldn't. And you didn't find out?
Yeah, because you guys are such an unprofessional group of
people.
douchebags that you're just taking all comers. This is the part that's really like concerning and like vaguely conspiratorial from their part. The party takes this matter seriously and is seeking more information. This includes whether or not parties may have obtained this information earlier and chose not to disclose it when it came to hand. It's like, are they talking about other political parties? Because, yeah, that's called opposition research, guys. Like, I don't know if you guys are like into politics, but that's how politics works, is you get dirt on your enemies and you release it as a strategic opportunity before an election to win the election. Like that's you're literally describing politics. Like,
yeah, that's
like,
kind of
how suspicious, how convenient for Labor that they didn't disclose that our it was like, well, they're not trying to do you any favors. You should research your own fucking candidates that you're putting forward to make sure That they haven't got open
Okay.
warrants out for their arrest. Dumb
So-
cunt.
To be very clear, though, there's a timeline of events here that are hilarious. So the ABC did contact One Nation media representative Richard Henderson, and I'm going to read this verbatim because
It's so good.
I can't believe this is a thing. So Richard Henderson was initially defensive when asked about the UK charges. Quote, sexual offence charge but not conviction, right? Question mark.
Incredible quote to have on the record. Yeah, but you didn't get convicted.
The ABC then says, however, when informed by the ABC that the UK courts had a warrant for his arrest and were seeking information about his location, Mr. Henderson said, quote, I think you might have the wrong person, end quote. New quote, he's not doing interviews with the ABC over this crap. Forget that, he said on the morning prior to One Nation's statement being released. And then he said at the end of the conversation, I'll look into it. So they've had this conversation. The guy's gone and done a little bit of checking, and then they put the statement up. And then after
Stripped
that,
him from the website.
profile. Yeah, exactly.
This is the media representative. This is the guy whose job it is to talk to journalists about stuff like this. You're going to be like, wait, charge, but not conviction, right? Like,
Yeah,
like
just a
as if
charge.
he was charged, that would be fine. Like, as if he was just charged, I'd be like, no, it's all right. Don't worry about it, mate. Like, yeah, who hasn't been charged? Am I right?
So Mr. Baxter was already in the news in South Australia because they'd worked out very clearly that he'd been parachuted in. He'd moved back to Adelaide very recently from being in the UK
I wonder why.
or somewhere else. Anyway, and then so
Yeah,
he was already
on the run. He was on the run by the sounds of it.
And then, so they were already on the back foot trying to defend his candidacy because there was another statement on Wednesday prior to all this happening. You can tell the Uni Party is getting desperate. They keep referring, by the way, to Labor and Liberal as the Uni Party. That's another fascist tactic. Anyway, keep going.
Yes.
You can tell the Uni Party is getting desperate after their latest coordinated attempt to team up and smear One Nation's candidate for the seat of Adelaide. And he's a defence veteran. So then they're like, oh, you're attacking a veteran. So, my values are solid because being a veteran automatically makes you the best person in the world.
Invincible.
Not to smear other defence members, but, it's one aspect.
I'm fine with defence members who aren't alleged to have touched people non-consensually.
Exactly, right? Like everyone's different and complicated. So, anyway, this is like, and, I'm assuming he was still on the ballot by the time they got to the election because the papers would have all been printed.
Yeah. I mean,
you can pull them off a week to go.
I was going to say seat of Adelaide, right? We can check the numbers.
Well, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how many people actually voted for him.
Yeah.
But, this is just a great find, Tom. Thank you for putting this story
I saw
out.
that come up, and I was like, there it is.
There it is, there's the one.
We've been saying for ages, like, they're so good. They're trying to expand. Like, One Nation's been saying for ages, we're going to run candidates in every seat and all that sort of stuff. It's like, oh, we're going to find some bangers. And, here's the first one.
My only hope
there
is that
will be more.
that they overextend themselves resource-wise and just spread themselves too thin and just get nothing for it. I hope that's my only hope at this point.
I think, look, knowing what I know about One Nation, I would suggest that they don't have the administrative infrastructure to really
Clearly not.
get across a large
Otherwise, you wouldn't be nominating
nationwide
people
election.
with open warrants.
But it will be interesting in the seat of, what's the next one coming up for the federal?
Farah,
Yeah.
the by-election.
When's that on? Farah by-election is coming up soon. Doesn't actually say what date. 9th of May. 9th of May. So that's
to
coming
your
up.
point earlier, Adam, though, about One Nation being a bit fashy, like, I remember, I think it was Corey Bernardi and, ever so slightly. Seeing some rhetoric, I think it was in one of these articles today, Corey Bernardi must have been talking about, the forgotten people and all this sort of stuff. Like, this is explicitly fascist adjacent rhetoric, These are not, we are, this is not a protest against the Uni Party. This is a declaration that things are not good enough in South Australia and are not good enough in Australia, and they want a viable alternative, he said. We are the voice of the forgotten South Australians. It's always the forgotten people. It's always, it's all this stuff about
The quiet Australians.
Matt Canavan, right, saying that, we need more Australian jokes, more Australian babies, more Australian. Like, these are explicitly fascist dog whistles that you're seeing coming from the far right.
Which is an extension, by the way. Look, I mean, so remember that John Howard famously said after one of his election wins that the quiet Australians have spoken, or something to that extent.
Similar sort of vibe.
But I mean, he wasn't campaigning on that. It was
not explicitly, but there was a whole child overboard thing where he's like, Muslims are killing their babies because they're terrible people, right?
But my point being is that, like, he said that in a post-election speech, and I don't think really referred to it too much.
It's been a thread that's run through Liberal Party politics.
Correct. Since that time, yeah.
Now the thread is the jumper, is my point.
Correct.
Explicitly pro-nativist, anti-immigrant, anti people of color. Like, you're not having to dig too far deeply into it to find the thread with One Nation. It's explicitly out there. And I worry the longer this goes on, the longer this is normalized and mainstreamed, the more that these views are going to feel acceptable to people in the Australian community. And I think they need to be otherized. The only way that beating back fascism works is by making it clear that the society at large finds it reprehensible and disgusting, and they need to go back into their holes and fucking keep their dog shit views to themselves. That's the only way it works.
And I do have to correct the record. It was Scott Morrison that said that in the 2019 election,
Well, there you go.
not John Howard.
On that note, we have been, we are, and we always... Sorry, Tom, did you...
Well, no, I had one more thing about just it came to my mind. I hadn't put an article about it there, but did you see the other snafu of One Nation in the South Australian election?
No, I have not. Please enlighten me.
About their how to vote cards.
Oh, amazing. Let's tell me.
So there's allegations, and it could result in fines, that the people handing out some how to vote cards in South Australia had pre-filled them. So like literally with pen. So the issue being that there's a difference between the cards then being handed to people in the line waiting to go vote than what was approved with the Electoral Commission. So what they had given to the Electoral Commission was just a card that's like, how to vote One Nation. You just put a 1 in this candidate's box. And they didn't have any of the others filled. Right? It was just like a number 1 on the Herpaderp One
Don't
Nation.
you legally have to number 1 to 5 or something, though?
No.
I think for your vote to count, I think in the...
So,
yes. Probably. But what they gave to the commission to approve...
It depends which house, right? If it's for the Senate, you can go like number 1 for this party and you can allocate my preferences.
For the lower house, you also
if it's for the lower house, you typically do, whatever it is, 1 to 6.
From the photos I saw, these are the ones where there's like 9 names on it. It's not the big, long, sanity one. It's like just the 9 boxes or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So they were worried that their dumb voters would just put a 1 against Pauline Hanson, leave everything else empty,
probably.
And then unwittingly do a donkey vote.
Yeah, probably. Right, but so what they had approved with the Electoral Commission was just the 1.
Yeah.
And then people were being handed ones that still had that 1, but then the other numbers were filled in by pen. And being given in.
These guys can't run. These guys can't run a fucking candidate. They can't run a sensible candidate. What makes you think they can run the fucking country? Like, that's what I don't understand.
So dumb.
Jesus Christ.
It's crazy. Apparently, it can be like a fine of $5,000 per
paper?
I think per individual, maybe, handing them
Hell
out. It's like those volunteers. You were probably told by some fuckhead who should have known better to do it, and then you're just Cheryl who's volunteering on the day. Like, fucking hell.
It's emblematic of this fascist idea, though, that it's like the rules don't apply to me. The rules just get in the way of getting stuff done.
I don't know about that. I think
we could just do whatever we want. We just got to be agile. We just got to like fucking move fast and break things, and we just got to do what we got to do to get things done. Right? It's an arrogance that these One Nation candidates have, where they say the rules don't apply to us. You know, like we can just do whatever we want.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous sign, I think.
I think it was probably more just someone being, as you said, someone telling someone something without checking something, and then also the people on the ground being like, it's all good. Yeah, no, we'll do it.
Or they're just idiots. Or they're just idiots. So we should elect them to run the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Either way,
it's the several things down the chain of like only approving just a 1 in your how to vote card thing. I bet someone at the Electoral Commission saw that where they're like, okay, I guess approved.
Approved, I guess.
All right. And then them realizing,
excellent, approved.
Fuck. So fuck up number 1, what a shit how to vote card, and then fuck up number 2 was telling people to fix it in the moment.
We're going to get roasted in the comments.
They're solutions focused. Solutions focused is what they are.
Yeah. On
we're in
that
a
note,
fast-paced environment.
On that note, we have been, we are, and we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you follow us on all the bullshit social medias that have, do, or ever will exist at our handle at Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and motherflippin' TikTok. Make sure you follow me on TikTok and Instagram at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Threads at tom.heath.
And don't follow me anywhere.
We're going to get roasted for all this Pauline Hanson stuff in the clips this week. I can just tell. I can just feel it coming already. I'm just not here for it.
I mean, roasted though? Roasted. I feel like roasted has to have a sense of, like, you have to look at the roast and be like, oh, fuck, it's funny because it's true. Like, you know, if we're getting roasted for it, like if we...
No, I'm not talking like a traditional roast. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, we're going to get a bunch of mean comments, so be ready for that.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, nobody has opinions like these idiots. Thanks for listening, guys. I love your faces. We'll see you next week.